Hi, everyone. This is the Women's Eye Podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Gualandi. Thanks so much for joining me. Now, here on the Women's Eye, you'll always meet women who aren't afraid to take action on issues that they are passionate about. This episode is brought to you by the Casco Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. Casco's president, Catherine Scrivano, started her business to help people like you create the financial strength to achieve your dreams. Now, you'll probably recognize my guest today. She is network correspondent Kristen Dahlgren. And now for 3 decades, 10 of those years with NBC, Kristen had her dream job, bringing television viewers the news. But this cancer thriver recently, surprisingly, stepped down from NBC to form a nonprofit called the Pink Eraser Project. Kristen's plan is to bring all the researchers together to fast track a breast cancer vaccine. Welcome, Kristen. Not too simple, right?
I know, right? It sounds a little crazy when someone else says it. We're like, what, 8, 10 weeks out, and I still can't believe I got on the couch of the Today Show and I said, I'm giving this all up, and here's what I'm going to do in accelerating breast cancer vaccines and hopefully someday curing cancer.
So if there's anyone who can do it. Well, I'm quoting you because you said one thing you learned as a journalist is that one person can change the world. So guess what? You're that one person in this particular space. So, I mean, any regrets?
No, and one person, but at the same time, it really is going to take all of us. So hopefully I'm the spark that gets this going. I always see myself as kind of the glue, because I ask myself every day, I'm a journalist, what am I doing in this cancer space now? And I just got back from the American Association of Cancer Research, where I was surrounded at this conference by 22,000 of the top cancer researchers in the world, and really just these incredible minds. And there were times when I felt like, what am I doing in this space? But at the same time, I think I'm the glue, I'm the mouthpiece for this. And I recognize that there is incredible science going on, and it's not getting out to people. I didn't even know that there were breast cancer vaccines in development. And I was a breast cancer survivor, and I was a medical reporter for NBC. I did a lot of the cancer stories. And if I didn't know about it, I knew that the word wasn't getting out to a lot of other people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like people like us, that had no clue. And that's why it's kind of enlightening or exciting to hear that there could just be like maybe a shot someday for cancer. Starting with breast cancer, obviously.
Right. And it's just so hopeful. And so, once I realized that it was there, and it really was either, it's happening, it's just either going to languish in the current status quo system where everything moves a little bit slowly, or it's going to take somebody like me coming in and saying, hey guys, let's all work together on this. Let's share. Let's talk about it. Let's get the word out, and let's do what we can to get the funding that you need, because these lives that are being lost to breast cancer still today, they matter. And we can do something that will save tens to hundreds of thousands of lives worldwide by accelerating this, by making it happen more quickly, so that someday there is both a therapeutic vaccine. So if you get breast cancer, God forbid, you have a treatment option that is better and easier on your body than the things that we're doing today, like chemotherapy and these massive, mastectomy surgeries. Saved my life. I'm grateful for it. But I think there's a better way that we can train our immune systems to fight the cancer. And so the science is really close. And I keep coming back to what I learned at this medical conference. I asked one of these women who used to be, high up in the National Cancer Institute and has been working on this problem for decades. And I said, are we on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? And she said, Kristen, I have never in all my years of working in this field been more hopeful than I am right now. And to hear it still gives me chills.
I just got chills too. Oh my gosh.
Because these are the people who are actually working on the problem, who are, doing the research to understand cancer, to understand what it does to our bodies, to understand the ways in which we can attack it. They are really hopeful, and vaccines are a part of that equation, a part of that conversation. And so that's where I know I'm on the right track. And this really just feels like I'm doing exactly the right thing. So this started with you asking me, any regrets? Not
Not
at all.
I know. And I know, we've talked to a lot of founders of nonprofits on the show. And that's, I don't know, that might have been maybe the difficult part of all this. The mission is easy, what you are, hoping to do and going to do. But yeah, jumping in from being a journalist to a nonprofit founder, how difficult, how crazy has that been?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge learning curve. I think one of the best things about having been a journalist is you get in the morning, you're given this subject, and you're supposed to learn as much as you can about it by 6 p.m. or before when you're interviewing
To put
people.
it out there on the news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know how to learn material quickly. You know how to ask the right questions. You know how to find the people who have the answers. So while I might not have any of these answers about how to do the science or how to do the business side of it, I do know how to get the right people around me. And so that's really what we're doing. We're building this incredible team. And Stacey, in many cases, it is survivors that are helping us, that are volunteering. We have been able to put together, a brilliant social media team. We're having our website redone. We're having all these people who are donating their time and working with us on it, who have been through breast cancer, who have someone who has been through breast cancer. We have one member of our team who just weeks ago had her prophylactic double mastectomy because she was BRCA positive. Her sister was going through cancer. She knew that she needed to do it. And so even after that massive surgery, she was on Zooms with us and was working on what our social media plan is going to be, moving forward as soon as we do this relaunch, which is coming in the next few days. And I'm really excited
Oh,
about. But
excited. Yes,
yeah,
do
it's this great group of people, and we've all been impacted by this disease. So I think it takes on, this new purpose when you know what we're really dealing with is pain and suffering and families being torn apart by this. We have a newer team member. She's 23. She just found out that she's BRCA positive. And so she's just been a wonderful addition. And I use her as my kind of timeline. She's 23 now. She'll have to start having those conversations within the next, 5 to 10 years about what she is going to do about that knowledge. I would love to have an option for her where she could get a vaccine. And so if she ever were to have cancer cells pop up in her body, which she has an 80 to 90% chance of happening, her
yes.
own immune system would be able to fight it. And so the promise is there both for therapeutic, hopefully for preventative vaccines. And so I use her as kind of my timeline of we really can get this done.
Yeah,
I
from now,
think,
the baseline here. Yeah.
yeah, and we as women, and I know men also are an important part of this, both because they can get breast cancer and because they support many women who go through breast cancer. But I'm seeing just the power in this sisterhood and how we together are saying, you know what, if there's a better option, we deserve it. We really deserve it. And so I see it as a movement as much as anything of people coming together and saying, well, it's not acceptable to go through this anymore or
Nope.
to have, people advancing and dying from breast cancer when we could just give a little more, support a little more, talk about it a little more, and hopefully have that answer.
And obviously, it's not a requirement necessarily, but I think there is an advantage for something like this. And I was remiss in the fact that you had a fellow thriver who helped found this Pink Eraser project with you, because you're coming into it with the knowledge that other people might not have, and from your own personal experience. And I think that informs this so well as well. You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's very important that, it is founded by two thrivers. We are women who understand what this disease can do. Michelle was de novo stage 4, so she was diagnosed at stage 4. She was told to do her bucket list. There's nothing else we can do with you. And she is this incredible person who said, you know what? No.
Yeah.
what my bucket list
It's like,
is to change this disease for
yeah,
people. So she went out and she realized that there was a gap in early detection that sort of left her without an early diagnosis. And so she changed the laws in Ohio so that there are options for early detection where women can get ultrasounds or MRIs in addition to mammography if they have dense breasts. She's ensuring that that's covered by insurance. And so she made this, massive change that helped so many lives. And then she started to hear about these vaccines. And again, she said, you know what? There's a better way. I can use my voice, my power. And, luckily, health wise, she's doing great. And she's been able to turn that moment of go home and do your bucket list into my bucket list is changing the world, and she's doing it.
exactly.
And I'm just so proud to be, to be a part of it with her. And I don't know, I think you started to touch on this vaccine idea and that it's not going to be mandatory for anyone. It's kind of this
An option
it's
perhaps,
an
or
option. Yeah, this is
because
just a
maybe not everybody's situation would lend itself maybe
right.
to depending.
And we're fully aware you talk about vaccines and this country is divided at this point after COVID-19, and whatever your feelings are on vaccination, this will never be something that the government mandates. Breast cancer is not an infectious disease, so there's not a public health threat from it spreading or catching, but it will be for people who decide to take it, who either need it because they have current breast cancer, they don't want a recurrence of what they've already treated, or they may be at high risk or just don't want to have breast cancer and
Yeah.
will, someday in my perfect world have that option to say, I choose to get a vaccine versus these other therapies that would be available.
Yeah. I mean, I got the chickenpox vaccine a few years back. I mean, on a
Yeah.
much smaller scale, but yeah, you mentioned too, when you first learned about these vaccines, it was as a medical correspondent for NBC News back in, I believe, 2016, when you did a story that was your first exposure to this notion that there are researchers out there. Tell me
Well,
about that, because you interviewed a prominent doctor working on this, on the breast cancer vaccine, correct?
right. So that came a little bit later. 2016 was actually right after I came back from maternity leave. NBC sent me out to the Mayo Clinic. There was a new study that said 1 in 6 women don't present with a lump. And so I did this story for Nightly News, and it
Hmm.
was about how, it's not always that marble that maybe, at least in my mind, I thought I was looking for when I was doing self breast exams. I thought it
Yep.
would just be hard and round and uniform. And so I did the story that some women get dimpling, some get discharged, some
Like
get
a,
dents in their breasts.
mhm.
Yeah. And so when on my 47th birthday, I was getting dressed and my hand over, putting the shirt on, and I was like, oh, there's a dent. What is that about? And because I had done that story, I thought back and I said, that's something that I need to get checked out because that's not, how this normally looks. And so the message I got there is know your body.
Yeah.
And I just had a mammogram 5 months before that was completely clear.
I know
I
there's a sense of feeling like, oh, good. Okay, I'm good, to the
yeah,
next exam, but there is a lot of that, yeah, I
yeah,
guess
and I
being
didn't realize that
self-aware
I
as
had
well.
yeah, I didn't realize that I had dense breasts, and so I should have been doing more screening. Nobody explained that to me or told me to do it. I kind of was following what I thought the doctors were telling me to do.
Yeah, me
And
too.
so, that's where my first advocacy started was once I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I thought, well, gosh, that story I did saved my life. And so I need to make sure that that message is still getting out. So that's when I started to talk about my cancer. I went on the Today Show in December of 2019 and, revealed that I was going through chemotherapy and how I had found my own cancer and how important it is to know your body and ask questions and really insist on getting things checked out.
Was that a
And
tough decision for you, Kristen, to take it public? Because there are two mindsets, where some
yeah,
people like when my dad had cancer, you know, he was all like, no, I don't want anyone to know. And then there's the fact that here you have this, you know, national platform, and then you chose to inform, you know, and to help.
Right. And for me, it wasn't. And that's actually surprising to me and to the people that know me well, because I am terribly private. I didn't even put like a lot on social media because I just wanted my private life to be that, not just surrounding cancer, just anything. And I was never fully comfortable as a public person. I'm, you know, inherently a little bit shy,
Right.
and I don't know how I ended up on television, but um for me, it was really important to share my story because I did think that I had this platform that could help people. And that for me was just the greatest gift that I could give to the world in that moment, and help someone else not go through what I was going through if they recognized earlier, or if they knew to get an ultrasound or an MRI along with a mammogram. And so it wasn't a difficult decision, and it kind of thrust me into this role of advocacy. And then NBC came to me with a lot of kind of, I always joke that I was the chief cancer correspondent, because everything then that had like a cancer story, they would say, well, you're sensitive and you understand this, so can you tell it? And I was happy to share those stories. And it was in one of those that I met Michelle,
Gotcha.
and we were
Right. Who was
talking about,
doing the work on the vaccines, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about her advocacy. And then she said to me off camera, you know, they're working on vaccines. And I thought she was crazy. I've got to admit it. And I've told her this since then. And, you know, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll look into it. And I didn't do a deep dive, and I didn't think it was anything. And God love her, she was persistent and kept coming back at me. I even saved a message from her, which was the final one that got me to make the call to the doctor and learn more about it. She was in India. She's like, I'm on vacation in India, but I really think that this
I'll
is a
take the
thing.
time though for you.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, there must be something here. This poor woman, you know, is on her vacation and she's still calling me about vaccines. It's got to be important, and I'm going to do this. And so that's when I had the conversation with Dr. Desis, and I was thinking maybe this will be a story, but let me just see what the real deal is. And that's when I was just so moved that the science is there, that the advances are there, because she told me about research she had started. She'd been doing it for 30 years, but she had a trial that was more than 10 years old.
That's what's
Um,
crazy to me. You
right?
know, I would just think that everybody would go all in. Let's rally the troops. Let's all collectively, because strength in numbers, you know,
Yeah.
and let's solve this thing. So I'm like, who's stopping it?
Yeah. And
You
that's, I
know?
mean, that's where I was. And I was having all of those thoughts. And I was like, well, if no one else is going to do it, gosh darn it, I'm going to do it. And so I think I used stronger language there, but it was like, gosh, get off, you know, everyone stand up and do this. And so I took this on, and we started, you know, she said, let's get everyone out of their silos and let's work with the doctors. And she brought some on, and I talked to others, and Michelle talked to some. And before we knew it, we had this who's who of breast cancer research who wanted to do this together. And so they started talking, we started building this thing, and it really just got to the point where I said, you know what, this is a full-time operation. This is, you know, full-time work for me. And it's really the most important thing that I've ever done. And I'm going to, you know, do it with everything I have. And so that's when, you know, I announced that I was leaving the Today Show, and we've been building it a little bit at 30,000 feet as the plane is flying,
Yes.
because we do want this to move so quickly. So it's not like we have a year to get the funding and, you know, build this great structure and beautiful website. We've been, you know, cobbling all of that together with an amazing team that's just come on board because they believe so strongly in it
Yeah.
too.
And it's like you
So
said, I
yeah,
think you're hashtagging it like, let's, you know, end breast cancer now, you know, but
right?
there was
Yeah,
one thing in one of your essays, or your when you wrote about your story, but you said that there were only a few things that would make me change course: if it was best for my family, best for my health, or if I thought I had the chance to change the world on a much bigger scale. Yeah, check, 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 you know, and I'm
right.
just curious how much, you know, are you doing this also for your daughter, because I know that has probably, that aspect of your journey has been probably very, very, very challenging and emotional, I would imagine.
Yeah. And I'm tearing up. Everything is about her. And so my entire purpose in life, after having her, is to make her life, um, rich and healthy, and to make this world a better place for her. And, a big part of that after my cancer journey, and I don't have a genetic predisposition, but I know that because of my cancer, she's now at a higher risk. And so it really is about making sure that she has better options than I did, because she was 3 when I was diagnosed, and this changed all of our lives. And I'm doing well. I'm healthy, I'm in remission.
Yeah.
But I think about recurrence um, all the time, and I worry about it, and I look at her, and I don't want her to have to go through this, or to feel like she has a ticking time bomb inside of her. And she's turning 8 soon. And so, yeah,
Wow.
um, it's been a journey for us. But to be a mom of a young kid and try and explain to them what cancer is, and why I was sick, and why I wasn't able to hold her, or why I, can't feel her always when she's like on my chest. There's a lot that goes into this that we don't talk about, as far as a diagnosis and what the treatments do to your body. I mean, I'm on hormone blockers, and that's changed me and my body. And, the surgeries I've had, I think 6 or 7 surgeries. It's a constant battle, even beyond. I still have lymphedema, which means my arm swells up. And so I'm fighting that. So there's a lot more to it than I think people think of. We wrap us in pink, and we call us survivors, and we talk about how strong people who go through this are, and they are, but there's also a lot that they're dealing with that's below the surface. And so that's another reason it's just so important for me to make this change, because I
Yes.
think vaccines could revolutionize this and really give people options other than these disfiguring surgeries and, difficult toxic chemotherapy, and the hormone blocking and things like that. So there's better options. And if I can do that for my little girl, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and obviously too, we're starting kind of in the breast cancer area, but what this could have, we call it the nipple effect, to get it to all these for all these other types of cancer as well. And I guess at this point, looking ahead, obviously you're early in the stages here, but yet you've hit the ground running. But I'm curious, what in a perfect world, what do you see that lies ahead in terms of making this a reality? The
Right. And
vaccine, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've just chosen breast cancer because Michelle and I have that personal connection to it, but also
Sure.
if you're very focused on moving one thing, and making a change in one area, um, it's a quicker pathway, but then that does have that trickle down to other things. So if we're able to get a vaccine in breast cancer, that will have applications to other solid tumor cancers, or vice versa. Like, at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York, they're having great success with a personalized pancreatic vaccine. And they
Oh,
just
wow.
presented more of that research, and that could potentially be adapted then down the road to breast cancer. And so they're working on lung cancer vaccines, and there are just these different applications. And so all of it in moving the science forward is going to
Like
impact
attacking
other
it from all
diseases.
angles, right? I mean, it's
Exactly.
get rid
And
of cancer for
so,
good.
you know, eh, to the question of, well, why can't we just do this then? It's very expensive. I mean, I've also been to the White House twice, and I've met with the heads of the NIH and National Cancer Institute. There is not enough funding to make this happen. And so that's a big part of what I'm doing, is asking people, to open up their hearts, open up their pocketbooks, and give what they can, in addition to spreading the word to others who might be able to give, because it's going to take all of us, and it is going to take a significant amount of money, especially if we want to do this quickly.
Yeah. So that's our call to action, really, for anybody watching this right now. It's like, we need money, we need big mouths to spread the word. We need lots of erasers just to kind of drive the point home. But yeah, that's really, yeah, if there's anything that you can say for this in this interview in terms of people listening and watching, what is that?
Yeah, I think it's that this will help everyone. And so this is everybody's fight, and everybody needs to get involved in whatever way they can. There is just to give a little bit of a lay of the land, because I think for me, this was important in understanding why it hasn't happened. There is the early stage philanthropy, and breast cancer research, actually funding from the government comes from the Department of Defense, which people may not
Yeah.
know. But so there's this early stage funding, and then you've got pharmaceutical, which comes in at the end to manufacture and to make a lot of money off of whatever drugs are in development. But there is this kind of valley of death in the middle. And so what we're trying to do is bridge that gap, bring those together a little bit more. And that is going to take the funding so that we can get these phase 2 into phase 3 research studies going. They've been proven safe and effective. We're using proven concepts. They are now in the phase where they'll be compared to what the standard of care is, a little bit more on a little bit bigger scale, and then it goes into the big scale phase 3 studies. And so hopefully that helps people to understand what the landscape is and why this isn't just oh, we have the science, let's snap our fingers and get it done. But that is going to take the funding. We have 2 trials that we're really excited about for triple negative breast cancer that we're looking to fund, as well as another one that could be a more personalized vaccine down the road for whatever breast cancer somebody had. We need the money to fund those. And so that's what our ask is right now, is for people who either have a connection to this disease, don't want to get this disease, don't want someone they love to get this disease. That's really all of us. Please join us, pinkeraserproject.org. Check it out, make a donation if you can, because that could save someone's life, including your own.
Absolutely. I think that's what's so great about this is that, you are somebody who left something that you were very passionate about to pursue something completely different that you were also passionate about as well. But do you miss TV at all, or was 30 years like, oh, I'm done, I hit the wall?
No, I mean, I loved TV. I loved my job. I loved my colleagues. I loved all the incredible people that I met along the way and did stories on. I don't miss it. I'm so excited about it. And I believe so strongly in what I'm doing, and that we are going to do this, and we are going to make a difference, and we are going to leave a better world behind, that I love every day doing this work and talking to people about it, and spreading the word about it. There is nothing that I've ever done, short of my child, that has as much meaning as this.
Oh, it's fantastic. Just as we wrap up, is there one thing that you can say? There's probably many things, but is there one thing that you can say to somebody who is going through cancer right now, or might have just gotten a diagnosis, or, it's a club that you never wanted to be a part of, but I just wonder if you have some little notion of advice that might have helped you get through your journey.
Absolutely. I would say the best thing I can tell someone is that you're not alone in this. And then I'll give you the longer answer, which is, I'm on your side. I have an amazing team that's working every day to make sure that you have the best options for your care. But more than that, when I came into this world, and it is this club that nobody wants to be a part of, I was absolutely blown away by the generosity of people, even some that I had never met. I'll give you a quick story. I knew her as a colleague. Andrea Mitchell is a really well-known correspondent for NBC. We had met each other in the hallways of 30 Rock, but we hadn't spent any significant amount of time together. But when she heard, um, I was leaving a hurricane that I had been covering because I learned that I probably had breast cancer and I had to go home and get a biopsy. She heard and called me. Immediately, she got me her doctor, who's the top doctor at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And she said, "Do you need me to come to where you are?" Which would have been
Oh,
a 2 to 3 hour drive from where she lives in Washington, and be with you tonight because I know how hard it is. And she knew I was away from my family and away from home. I don't want you to be alone. And I thought that act of generosity was just so kind.
yeah. Like a little angel on earth, you know?
Yeah, and it's just, but she was the first. Then I had another friend who sat with me for every chemotherapy because she had been through it and she knew what that was like. And just the people that have gone through this disease are such an incredible and generous community. And so for anyone who's newly diagnosed, tap into that because we all want to help you. We've all got your back. We all want to be there through this process with you and help you where we can. And you are never alone because there are so many of us who have gone through it before, and so many of us now who are working on, the vaccines and better options for you.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for you, the one person that's going to change the world, Kristen. I can't thank you enough because this will be very, very, very helpful. And I just know that there's great stuff ahead for you and for Pink Eraser Project. So I thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Yes. Now you can learn more about Kristen and her Pink Eraser project by just going to our website, thewomenseye.com. On the website, you'll also find our books. I've got some props, 20 Women Changemakers. Just shop wherever you buy books and at changemakersbook.com. And 20 Women Storytellers, people just like Kristen, at womenstorytellersbook.com. Now, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube channel. Again, thank you, Kristen. We're going to erase breast cancer for good with you
Yes.
with you in charge.
Thank you. Join
Thank
us,
you.
everyone.
Yes. Thanks to all of you for joining us on the Women's Eye podcast. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Remember, it's the world as we see it.